Good evening. Welcome to this session of the 7 factors of awakening. And we are at the module of exploring the factor called investigation of reality. Just to recap and review a little bit what I have covered so far in this module. And so under this investigation of reality is to highlight that we all have within our mind a factor or a function of the mind, which is where we, I like to think of it as to do with curiosity. We are curious, we inquire, we investigate into the different facts of our life, the facts of our reality. And so far, I have covered a few different methods or ways to go about it. We start off mainly with mindfulness. The previous module, the factor of mindfulness comes into play when we wish to investigate to know better reality, the reality of ourselves, of our life, of our experiences. So far, I have touched on applying mindfulness. One of the techniques we use is to differentiate between sensing and thinking. So to be mindful that at this moment is my attention involved with sensing through my physical senses, as in am I paying attention to what is coming through my eyes, the visual input, the sounds or the bodily sensations. So these are sensing. Or is my attention preoccupied with thinking? Thinking can be, there are many different forms of thinking. Thinking in the form of remembering, a form of imagining, thinking in a form of planning, or I'm turning certain things over, applying some logic and reasoning and so forth. So make a differentiation in terms of our experience to become aware of when we are sensing and when we are thinking. And this can be a very useful way of applying mindfulness to investigate our experiences, our current reality, because so often we find that our attention is caught up in thoughts, and we have a tendency to confuse what we are thinking for present moment reality. In fact, I personally quite often might get so caught up in my reactive thinking. I might be remembering something that has happened before, and find myself in this moment reacting, getting angry or getting anxious or fearful or upset or whatever it is. Actually reliving the same emotional responses as it was in the previous, when the actual event was happening in the past. So I have, to some extent, confused my memories for the current reality. Or another scenario is I would like to project and think about, imagine how things will turn out in the future. I'm sort of planning ahead, but then I get lost in my thoughts. I almost as if what I imagined has come true, and I'm reacting to that scenario and reacting to that situations, getting all worked up over a scenario. In my own experience, most of those scenarios that I imagine never happened. So I'm basically getting all worked up over nothing at all. Much ado about nothing. And this is a classic, very, very common situation we find ourselves in, that we have confused what we are thinking about, our thoughts, our thought-created scenarios of reality. Confuse that with what is actually happening, what we are actually sensing through our senses in this moment. If we are able to step out of that thoughts or that thought-created world or scenario and come back to this moment, come back to our senses, literally come back to our senses, we will be able to see, aware what is the present moment reality. And then we can really, from our own experience, tell how confused we are sometimes, how we have mistaken this kind of world or scenario or situation projected by a thought. We confuse that with reality. So that's the one of the techniques I covered. Another one is especially in relation to thinking, the thoughts. We can even inquire further, investigate further. What was I actually thinking about when I get all worked up over this kind of imaginary scenarios? Can I really look at almost like the brickwork, the building blocks of my thought-created scenario? So I've invited you to really take a close look at the individual thoughts. If possible, to label them or to echo them once, so that we can see clearly what exactly I'm telling myself. What is the story I'm spinning in my head about myself or about some situations that I might get myself in. And when we can see the building blocks, we are actually depriving that habit of the kind of control over our mind, of the kind of distortion. It's distorting my attention and perception, leading them down this particular loop, this storyline. And sometimes the story is very far away from the reality of the moment. And last week, I introduced this notion of retrospective mindfulness. So far, those two methods is mindfulness in the moment, right? In the moment as we are thinking, to label thinking as thinking, sensing as sensing, or to echo the thought as it comes forth. Say, oh, I'm having a thought, this person is so terrible, I'm having another thought. So those are present moment awareness or mindfulness. But we can also apply what I call, what someone else called, I just pick up the term, retrospective mindfulness, which means we may not be so mindful in the moment, in the heat of the moment, but subsequently, afterwards, after there is a passing of a certain period of time, could be long, could be short, we can look back and try to recollect what happened. What was I thinking? What was I feeling? What is it? What else can I recollect from that situation? And of course, not just within, but in the case of an interaction with another person, what did the person say? And how did I react to it? What was triggered inside me? What was I feeling? So by casting our mind back, or as the Buddha said, to bring that the past events back into awareness, bring it back to mind, place it at the foreground of our mind. In this way, we can once again attend to it. Maybe we'll miss out quite a bit of the details, but we will get something. And this gives us interesting enough, a more objective view of that situation, because there is a gap, and there's a distancing, in this case due to time, and sometimes also due to place. We might be recollecting it at a different place. Maybe it happened in your workplace, and now you recollect it when you're home. So there is a separation of place, separation of time, and this may help us to become a bit more objective, less emotionally entangled, caught up and reactive, and we can cast our mind attention back and look at the details. And this is another way we can practice mindfulness. And in fact, retrospective mindfulness is a very powerful way of practicing mindfulness, because not only allow us to see the situation in different lights and see clearer some of the details that we tend not to notice when we are all caught up in reactivity, but the more you do it, the more you're able to practice this kind of retrospective mindfulness. The funny thing is, one day, in the midst of, in the heat of the moment, in maybe a very similar scenario, which tends to be repetitive, this kind of thing, when we react to different, we are reacting. In the midst of it, we suddenly become mindfully aware that, oh no, I'm about to do the same thing that I have done, who knows, umpteen times in the past, And whereas previously you can only mindful of it after the fact. now in the middle, right in the midst of it. Sometimes, right when the word is at the tip of your tongue, you suddenly have this kind of mini kind of, you wake up to the fact that, oh, here I go again. I'm repeating the same patterns. And that is the wonderful thing. In that moment, we have a choice. I can just keep my mouth shut for just a few seconds and allow the urge to pass. And then the whole conversation may take a different turn, may go down a different, a new route, instead of repeating the same old pattern. Okay, so that's where we are at in terms of investigating reality. So my plan for this module, which is still going to continue till December, is to introduce people to the different methods of investigating reality that presented in Buddhist literature. Different traditions of Buddhism, some of which, of course, derived directly from Buddha, developed and emphasized a different approach to investigating reality. There's a huge diversity and variety, and it's actually quite interesting to learn about these different ways in which we can inquire, investigate, to come closer to the truth or the reality, the facts. And there are many different methods available for us, and of course, not all of them are equally helpful or suitable, but I think it's very valuable to be aware of the different options. Then at different situations, we all have different personalities. We might find some much more resonate stronger with us than others, or we may find that it's good to have many different tools in our toolbox, so that in different contexts we are able to apply different methods. So today I want to continue with retrospective mindfulness, but talk about a practice, a very common practice in the Buddhist tradition called recollection, which of course, as the name implies, has something to do with bringing what has happened or what we know, what has happened or what we have known, and bringing that to mind, bringing that to the foreground of our awareness in this moment. So we recollect, we remember, recollection. Recollection is another way in which we can investigate our reality, our life experiences. Because what happened is, it's like inviting ourselves to take another look, at things that we might have known or we are familiar with, but we might have been interpreting them or seeing them in a particular way, in a particular context, and we are used to looking at things from this particular angle. And now, through the practice of recollection, we are giving ourselves another opportunity to take a different look. It's almost like rewriting our biography, autobiography, if you want to put it that way. We might be very used to recollecting certain experiences, defining experiences in our life. And we select those experiences. We select them in a certain way. We put them in some kind of chronological sequence. And this is the story of my life. And since I'm a pessimist, I do have a tendency, when I got into that loop, to think of my life in a more negative light. So I select the awful experiences in life. We all have our share of suffering. And you just have to creatively string them together, and you got this miserable, terrible, pitiful life, literally a sob tale that you can tell yourself, and then you get very emotional about how awful my life is. Perfect recipe to be depressed about them. And unbeknown to us, we can get so habituated to thinking in this way, recollecting in this way, seeing our life in this way, that we might assume that this is the only reality. This is the facts. That is my life. My life is miserable. But in actual fact, that's not true. We all have different experiences. Maybe there are some truth in it, but that is not the whole truth. And with the practice of recollection or retrospective mindfulness, like what we did last week, I suggest people to do this meditation, which I call appreciating our precious human life. And in that practice, we recollect, we bring to mind, not the awful stuff, but the happy moments, joyful moments, the lighter moments. In fact, moments of pleasure, of connection with others, simple moments. Don't have to be something grand or great and earth-shaking, but some of the simplest mundane moments in life that when we can recollect and bring them back into awareness and put them side by side, we can tell a different story. We can see that, oh, my life is not so bad. That there is wonderful things has happened, and we must still be enjoying it, and that by putting it together in that way, we can develop a different feelings, a different perspective on our life. We can come to appreciate there are all these aspects of my life that I might have neglected, or I have somehow left out of my autobiography. And by relooking at it, I can come to appreciate it. I can value it, that this is my life is in a way unique and unrepeatable. And by that, it is precious. Maybe not precious to someone else, but definitely precious to me. So this is one way of applying recollection or retrospective mindfulness. Yeah. So today, I want to start off. Today, I want to introduce two other theme or topics for recollection. Was Buddhist bio a bit fake? Fake. You can say it's completely fake, I suppose. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm not there 2,500 years ago. And the Buddhist biography just get thicker as the centuries go by. As you go further and further away from the Buddha's time, it seems to have more and more details. After all, we human beings, we are storytellers. We tell stories. Of course, hopefully, in all stories or biography, there are some elements of truth, some facts. But of course, as centuries pass, it's getting harder and harder for us to locate or fact check, to verify it. For me, the Buddha's story, it's just like our story. The Buddha's story, most probably some aspect is true. That's my personal belief. But I tend to think of him as some archetypical sort of figure. So much so that I'm not so concerned whether which aspects of it is factual and I can somehow lock it down. I see it as an inspiring tale to inspire me, to make me consider possibilities. I'm interested more in Indra. Oh, well, I won't comment on that. Yeah. All right. So coming back to recollection, the first practice belonged to a set of what we call a list called 6 recollections, which is a part of the teaching of the Buddha, where the Buddha suggests that we can, in different circumstances, there are 6 things we can recollect. One is recollection of the Buddha. Recollecting the biography of the Buddha is one part of the practice. Recollecting the qualities of the Buddha. It has a certain influence and impact on our mind. Second is recollection of the Dharma, which is the Buddha's teaching. Could be the actual teaching itself, whichever that is most powerful and rests strongly with us, and also to recollect the characteristics of the Buddha's teaching, how wonderful it is, how personally, how we have able to verify it in our own experience, and how it has benefited us. So recollection of Dharma. Third is recollection of Sangha. Sangha refers to the community of fellow like-minded practitioners, that we're all following the same spiritual path, and we have shared our spiritual journey, and they are wonderful support and companion for us. So recollection of the Sangha. Recollection of our own practice of generosity, of giving, is the fourth one. So recollection of generosity. In this case, specifically our own practice of generosity. Fifth is recollection of our own practice of ethics, the ethical choices, the ethical actions that we have done and carried out. These two, you can put them together. These are actually the recollection of our own wholesome actions, wholesome virtuous actions according to the Buddha's teaching, contribute to happiness, future happiness. And of course, you might say if someone is very narcissistic, very self-focused, self-centered, this is no problem. This will make them, because they're always doing it, they're always looking at themselves. But putting that aside, there's a specific scenario for each one of us. Most of us is sometimes very helpful to look back and recollect these aspects of our own actions, and rejoice in it, rejoice in our own practice of generosity, be it in a very kind of organized, systematic way, or just random acts of kindness that we ourselves have engaged in, and to reflect and recollect our own commitment to certain ethical principles of ourselves and trying our best. Of course, we're not perfect. We do make mistakes, and we have lapses here and there and all over the place. But nonetheless, in spite of that, we do commit ourselves, and we try our best in many occasions to live up to our own ethical standards, and we arrange our life, we make choices in line with that. So it's important to also recollect and acknowledge that. So there's those two are for us to rejoice in and to encourage ourselves to continue. The sixth recollection is an unusual one. This is called Recollections of the Devas. Devas are a Sanskrit word for celestial heavenly beings. So in the Buddhist ancient or even modern cosmology, Buddhists believe that there's the human realms and animal realms, and there are other invisible realms, populated by invisible entities, or at least invisible to the human eyes. Most circumstances, so there are unfortunate realms of existence, hungry spirits, hellish existence, and then there are better heavenly realms, and it's a complicated cosmology, many layers and levels of heavens, and so this sixth is to recollect the characteristics and the experiences of the Devas, the celestial beings. Of course, for most of us, if you don't personally embrace this cosmology, it's sort of a bizarre topic to reflect on, recollect, or to bring to mind. But I suppose in ancient India, at the Buddha's time, this is part of the common belief. I don't mean everybody believe in it, but most people accept this as part of their worldview. And in that context, by recollecting the heavenly existence and their experience, because to be reborn in the heavens, in the Buddhist context, are the result of practice like generosity and ethics. Yeah. So in a way, recollecting the Devas is recollecting the future results of someone who living an ethical life, a generous life. So you can see that the last three is a kind of recollection of causes and effects. Do Devas protect us? You asked the wrong person. Since I'm always skeptical about all these invisible entities, I told my friend recently I prefer a philosophy or worldview with as little entities as possible. In fact, my own personal worldview influenced by Buddhist, particularly the middle way Buddhist philosophy, which is famous. Madhyamika, as in Sanskrit, the middle way philosophy, is famous, known as the philosophy of no entity, not even human. So not to talk about Devas. But that aside, I think each of us we are free to explore the different possibilities of different realms of existence. And you may come across many stories in Buddhism, the different Asian, different form of Buddhism. There are many stories about all these different classes of existence of beings. And Devas, yes, not all of them, but some of them, if you are in a good relationship with them, they do extend protection to especially a serious Dharma practitioner. Yeah. Okay, so first meditation for this evening, I invite you to practice the recollection of generosity and ethics, primarily of our own realms. I sense they are trapped. Okay, never mind. I'll come to that later. So recollection of our own practice of generosity and ethics is rejoicing in our own creation of wholesome actions, our own creations of the causes of happiness, at least according to the Buddhist teaching of karma. And the way to do that is to invite. Recollection means to remember, invite from our memories, our stored memories, all those different instances, incidents where we are generous, we practice, we give from a place of good heart, and also we live, we make choices, we act in such a way that they are in line with ethics, with our own ethical principles. And although we may find that most often we tend not to dwell on this, because especially if it's genuinely motivated from the heart, we just do it. We just do it and forget about it, because that's really what we feel deep down. This is the right thing to do at that moment. We most probably don't dwell on it too much subsequently. But it's important also to remember that we have done all these positive acts, that we have engaged in these wholesome actions. It has an effect of changing the way our minds see ourselves, see our lives, see our experiences. And for those of us who sometimes think about the purpose and meaning of life, such actions as generosity and ethics give a special quality, meaning to our life, that we have lived our life, at least on those many occasions, in a way that is not just benefiting ourselves, but we have extended beyond our self-concern and reach out and be of benefit to others. So I'm going to invite you to bring them to mind one at a time. Sometimes I give people this metaphor, which some people find not very useful. I think of it as traveling up and down the river of time, river of my own life. And along the way, like looking around at the banks, along the banks, and recollecting some of our past experiences. What sort of scenario may come to mind? What sort of incidents may just spontaneously arise within the space of our mind, and we say, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yes, I did that. Oh, I also did that. I gave this, and I was feeling like this and like that, and therefore I did that." So see if we can just recollect and allow ourselves to be open to it, and to feel happy, to rejoice in our own creation of such a meaningful, purposeful actions or benefits. Yeah. So I invite you to just a short reflection, just settle back and choose a posture suitable for meditation. Could be sitting on a chair like what I'm doing, could be sitting on the floor, on a cushion if you're used to that. You can also lie down, or lie down on your back, on your couch, on your bed, or wherever. And just take a few moments and allow the body to adjust itself to find its way into this meditation posture. Or just ring the bell to signal the start of this reflection. So we start by, first of all, reassuring our body that in this posture it is well supported, well balanced, and safe. We do that by, at least for me, I do it by way of noticing how the body is resting on the surface. They feel very solid, stable, and firm, qualities that we tend to associate with the earth element, with the ground. And so we allow the body to feel that it is well supported by the great earth, by the ground. And when that message is able to get through to the body, to the brain, to the nervous system, it facilitates a process whereby the body can loosen up. The body may realize that it does not have to be so tight and tense, and therefore it can unwind a bit. you can let go of some of those areas of tension and tightness, releasing those tensions, those unnecessary contractions. Our body can gradually settle down and become comfortable in this posture. Next, we will spend some time helping body and mind to settle back, to settle into meditation, to shift gears, to put aside other things, other matters preoccupying them. A simple way of doing it is to invite our attention to come back here and now, to reconnect with the body, to notice the different bodily sensations. Just a light touch, doesn't need a lot of effort. So starting at the crown, I invite you to just notice sensations at the crown. Simple sensations, we are not digging deep, we're just noticing at the surface. Maybe a bit of tingling sensations here, a sense of warmth or coolness, maybe, possibly nothing at all. Moving downwards with our attention, let's tune in and notice the sensations at our own face. Are we tensing up some of the facial muscles? And if we are, see if it's possible, now that we are aware of the sensations at our face, to persuade those muscles to relax, to let go of the tightness and tension, and to invite in a different feeling, a feeling of softness, of ease and relaxation into the face. Moving downwards, be in touch with the sensations at the neck, the throat, and the shoulders. Tune in and notice the different sensations here. I often store tension and tightness in the shoulders, and for some reason it's particularly painful today. So maybe you will notice similar sensations or something different. So just be aware of the sensations here at the neck, the shoulders. Acknowledge any unpleasant feelings. And just let them be for the moment. They are unlikely to go away easily or quickly. But maybe later on, as we continue downwards with our attention, our body may get the message and start to release and start to unwind. Tune into the arms and the hands, allow into our awareness sensations in both arms, sensations at the various joints, the shoulder joints, the elbows, the wrists, and also sensations in both hands. And now that we have awakened the sensations in both arms and hands, see if we can give permission and just rest the weight of the arms comfortably on their physical support. Coming back to the body, to the chest, notice sensations here at the chest, sensations at the front as well as the back, sensations of movements associated with breathing. Moving further down, tune into the sensations at the abdomen. Sometimes we notice sensations at the surface, at the skin layer. Other times in the muscles. And maybe still deeper for the various organs and tissues inside our body. Moving down to the pelvis, notice sensations at the pelvic region. Sense the weight of the pelvis resting on the seat. And see if we can give permission. Allow the different powerful muscles to relax so that we can rest that weight comfortably on the seat or on the support. And lastly, we survey both legs all the way down to the feet. Welcome into awareness any sensations here at the hip joints, at the knees and ankles. And similarly, having awakened the sensations in both legs, we give permission and rest the weight of both legs comfortably on the floor or on some physical support. So we rest our body in the posture, allow it to continue to settle down, to unwind, to release unnecessary tensions. While we turn our mind to the practice of recollection, in particular recollection of generosity, recollection of our ethical actions. Might be helpful to make use of the breath sensations or bodily sensations as an anchor, a place to invite our attention to come back to rest here and now. Just in case we get very distracted or confused during the meditation, just remind ourselves that we can always come back to the breath, come back to the body to reorientate ourselves. And while staying in contact with breath sensations, bodily sensations, see if we can invite into the space of our mind, into the foreground of our mind, some memories of the past. In particular, we're trying to recollect our own actions of generosity, of ethics, of wholesome, virtuous actions in line with our own ethical principles. At first, the process might be a little bit forced, may feel artificial, uncomfortable. See if we can persevere and invite from deep within our unconscious, our memories, invite into our awareness any past incident where we are generous, we practice giving to a loved one, a family member, a friend, a stranger, any act of generosity, as well as any act of wholesome actions. Coming back to here and now, coming back to the practice of recollection, I suggest you start with a lower standard. Don't prejudge yourself, don't premature in censoring the various different memories and images that come forth. And even let into your awareness small, seemingly insignificant act of giving, act of wholesome actions. Of course, you may not value it, may not think that it's very important, but that's all right. Just recollect and let it come fully into awareness. Recollect the circumstances, recollect the people involved. If possible, even recollect a little bit of the inner process, our own thoughts, our own feelings. Stay for as long as or as short as we like with each incident, and then move on to the next. Coming back to the anchor, the support, be it the breath or bodily sensations, especially if you find that you get very distracted away from the topic of recollection. See if you can find a way to encourage, to lubricate, to bring forth all these different memories, especially allowing yourself to be pleasantly surprised by memories of incidents long forgotten. And now they can come back to mind. Acts of generosity, of ethical behavior. And see if you can find within yourself, as you recollect these incidents, the possibility of allowing yourself to feel happy about them, to rejoice in the fact that you have made those choices, you have engaged in these actions in the past, and allow yourself to feel happy, to rejoice in having done it, and in so doing, bring some benefit to others, and maybe even to yourself. Coming back to here and now, reconnecting, connecting with the breath, with bodily sensations, and awakening past memories of our own actions of generosity, of ethics. See if we can invite all these different incidents to come forth from our memory. And as we dwell on them, as we recollect some of the details, allow ourselves to rejoice in them, to look at our life, to look at our behavior and actions from a different point of view, a different angle, and to let into our own experience a different set of feelings towards them. One of rejoicing, one of feeling happy, feeling a sense of gratitude that we have been given the opportunity to do so, especially towards those in need, towards those that we love and we care about. Coming back here and now to the support, the breath and body. Occasionally we may feel that we have exhausted all the memories or the incidents. But one lifetime is a long time. And all we need to do is to revisit and relook at the different experiences. And maybe lower our standard even more. Let in even what we might regard as totally mundane and not quite act of generosity or ethics. Consider the simpler moments, simpler incidents, and maybe they too can be viewed as acts of giving, acts of wholesome actions. We don't have to necessarily give a lot, not necessarily in material terms. Could be a smile, could be a kind words, could be going out of the way to be of help, giving of time, giving of energy, giving of attention. And likewise, for ethical actions, doesn't have to be grand, great, important moral dilemma. Could very well be simple act, simple actions of speech or behavior. And finally, gathering up the different memories, the different incidents we have recollect. See if we can let into our own experience a sense of rejoicing, a sense of feeling happy, pleasantly surprised maybe, that we have created so many of such acts of giving, so acts of ethics. Okay, so there's an example of the practice of recollection, which is a way of investigating our reality, inquiring into our reality, but based on our past experiences. It's also a very important technique, a practice to do, because what it does is taking our memories, the same store of memories that we carry with us, but pulling out the different component of it, rearranging them in a different way, so that we have a new perspective about ourselves, to see ourselves on a different angle, in a different light. And that is very important, because it is the basis of us to bring about change in how we feel, change in how we see things, how we respond to things. And one of the ways is to reorganize our store of memories, literally joining them in a different way, telling a different story. And in so doing, have a positive effect on our current beliefs, our current views, our current way of reacting, responding to situations. So there is this 2 out of the 6 recollection. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition in particular, there is a practice which I really like. I thought adapted. The practice is about remembering and thinking about the qualities and kindness of our spiritual teachers. It's one of the very important meditation in the context of Tibetan Buddhism. In this case, the teachers are the sources of inspiration. It inspires us, it uplifts us, it moves us. Sometimes even in a very deep and powerful way, emotionally as well as cognitively, by recollecting our relationship with our spiritual teachers, by recollecting his or her qualities and kindness shown to us. And this is such an important kind of reflection. And I think I thought to bring it in this context, because what is important here is this, as represented by this term, inspiration, inspired, which is a translation of the Tibetan term, Jinlap. Literally, although that's not how you probably would interpret it, the etymology of this term, Jinlap, means the waves of magnificence. Yeah. And sometimes when you're inspired, that is literally how you feel. There's this waves of strong sensations and emotions flowing, actually experience within ourselves. Sometimes very physical, sometimes it's more mental or emotional. And this moves us, stirs up our feelings, and most importantly, with inspiration, open up possibilities, allow us to entertain possibilities and options that previously we don't consider, we don't believe is possible for us. It sort of expand our sense of what is possible for ourselves, and we are inspired. It stirs up energy, moves us forward, make us go forth to make positive changes, to do things differently. Yeah. And so inspiration, therefore, is such an important ingredient in our process of making positive changes. And so it's important to be inspired. And just by using this term, I think you can relate. Sometimes we may start off on a new project, or let's say the spiritual path with Buddhism, let's say, or meditation. We are very enthusiastic. We are somehow, something stirs up and got our interest. We are inspired to do something different, something new. And so we are able to call forth energy, we invest time, we give our attention to do something. And that's wonderful, because by doing so, quite often we are able to see things changing, hopefully in the positive direction. But through the passage of time, and of course we encounter obstacles, we do have difficult experiences, things don't go according to expectations, and we find that if we don't renew it, our inspirations sort of fade away, and we come to a point where we might be totally uninspired. We might find ourselves burnout, as the popular term. We lose touch with the source of inspiration. We lose touch with the energy of inspiration, and we find ourselves getting stuck. And we're not moving forward. We don't have the energy to break through. We are somehow drowning, or feel like we're drowning in all these reactions and reactivities, especially to any obstacles. Yeah. And therefore, periodically, it's very important to renew our inspiration, to reconnect with the sources of inspiration in our life. And that re-energize us, that remind us of what is possible for ourselves, and keep us going. Therefore, that's why it's such an important practice presented in the Tibetan Buddhist context. Among all sources of inspiration, of course, I have asked this question to many people in various occasions. Of course, different people will point to different things that inspire them. Some are art, others are nature, music. But among all the different sources of inspiration, a big major category are people, other people, fellow human beings, some of which are maybe with very strong personal connections in our life. Others are maybe more distant, but nonetheless, it is other humans, human beings, their qualities, their behavior, especially their interaction with us, their kindness towards us, that really inspire us, that move us deeply, that sometimes they becomes the impetus for us to take that step forward, to make that changes, and to bring something different into our life. Therefore, it is important in relation to inspiration to recollect our own personal sources of inspiration, in particular, the people that inspire us. And I have this particular way of meditating on this topic that I have introduced to people, and it's quite fun because I have very low standards, and I find that is a good way to proceed with this kind of meditation. If you set your standards so high, you have zero source of inspiration because somehow everybody that you think about didn't meet your high standards. And I tend to suggest people to do the other way around. Lower your standards, and you might be happier that way. Actually, in this meditation, which we are going to do, I first of all invite you to think of an appropriate setting, appropriate to yourself, where you're going to meet or re-meet your sources of inspiration, the different people in your life, this life, that you regard as inspiring, that may have actually inspired you or still inspiring you. And as I said, low standard, so I cast the net quite wide. I will say to people that, there's a wide range to select from. This could be people that are still alive and maybe still in your life. It could have passed on, that doesn't matter, living or dead. We can invite them into this setting that you have created to meet them again. The setting can be anything. It can be very religious. Traditionally, you can think of like some pure land, some heavenly realm existence. Or I suggest people, you could do it, have a nice afternoon tea party and invite sources of inspiration. My version is strange. I don't know why. It just sort of come to me. It's an empty hall, one of those community hall with no food at all. There's nothing, and just a few plastic chairs scattered around, and that is my setting. And then someone else have the most fantastic one is someone told me he invited the sources of inspiration to come into this ginormous spa, and they're all soaking in the water and have a jolly good time. So, your imagination is your limits. Find a suitable setting, invite the sources of inspiration to different people, living or dead. It could be people that you're close to, or people that you know them personally, or could be just some distant figure that you just admire them and their deeds and what they have done really inspire you. That's also possible. I even allow people to think of it as they can be actual, real people, or could be fictional characters that somehow inspire us. With those that you have met or never met in person, could be those that you know in real life in person, or you only know them through books, through documentary, through TV series, YouTube videos, who knows. And so it's pretty wide. And in this meditation, it's almost like inviting the door of our heart to open and to recollect all those people in our life that have in one way or another touched us, moved us, therefore become the sources of inspiration. And we are just going to gather them together in one place to re-meet them and allow ourselves, as we look at them as they are together here with you in this particular setting of yours, to allow the heart to open and to be inspired by them once again. In fact, in my visualization, my mother, who is one of my sources of inspiration, the Dalai Lama, they never met in real life. And in this particular scenario setting, they have a really good time sitting next to one another, having a conversation. In fact, they are so deeply engrossed in the conversation that I feel like I have to say, wait, hello, look here. It's about me, not about you. Yeah, you're supposed to be here to be my sources of inspiration. Don't be too caught up in your own chit chat. Yeah. I'm just joking, but that is really what happened in my meditation. So feel free to improvise in this meditation, but really take this opportunity, to re-meet again, once again, these important people in your life, the sources of inspiration. And as you can see, you're most welcome to do whatever you want in this meditation. But the most important, the heart of it, of course, is to gather them once again into the foreground of to recollect them, invite them to come into the foreground of our awareness, and for us to remind ourselves, to take a good look and remind ourselves, oh yes, that's right, here is so and so, and this is how, and under what circumstances, and this is why we find them so inspiring, and to awaken once again our hearts, allow it to be moved, to be touched, allow it to feel once again that surge, the waves of inspiring energy, if possible. Doesn't matter if not, but it's still good to meet them once again and to say hello, to say hi. Okay, so let's do this meditation. And you may ask, why is this considered investigation of reality? Because this is an important aspect of our reality, our sources of inspiration that inspire us. In my case, quite often due to lack of confidence in myself, self-confidence. So I often suffer from self-doubt. And I feel very blessed in my life that there are people who hold great trust and faith in me, in my own ability, long before I have found that confidence in myself. And precisely because of their faith, because of their trust, it's so powerful, so inspiring. Allowed me to discover for myself what I'm capable of, and allow me to discover my own potential, my own abilities. Whereas before that, I'm in doubt, I'm in denial, I'm unaware of them. And precisely because of their trust and their kindness, in that sense, that I'm able to be in touch with my own abilities, to develop over time my own confidence. And I find that I regard that as an aspect of inspiration. And in fact, I make that my own part of my, not so much motto, but my objective at the back of my mind, especially when I'm presenting meditation, to hold the faith in oneself, in others' ability, in this case, to meditate, to have their own unique meditative experience, long before they have found that confidence in themselves. And it's a function of presenting, facilitating meditation that is, in a way, my simple offering, a gift, and because I myself have been the recipients of such a wonderful gift. Okay, so let's do a meditation on inspirations. So as usual, take a few moments and find a suitable posture to settle in, to allow the body to abide here and now in meditation in a state of ease and comfort, feeling well supported, well balanced and safe. The more we are able to help the body to reconnect with its own sensations, for it to adjust, to unwind, to loosen up, and to settle down, the more we'll find that it's easier for us, for the mind to enter into the meditative state. So to help body and mind to shift gears for the first few minutes, let's rely on our natural breath as a support, resting our attention on the breath sensations throughout the body, allowing ourselves to experience the in-breath and the out-breath. We can make use of the out-breath as an opportunity to remind ourselves to release, to deepen the sense of release. So coming back here now to the breath sensations, breathing out, we may in our own mind say the magic word release, just as a reminder. And maybe we can allow our face to soften, to release any unnecessary tension, not tightening the muscles of the forehead, or those of the jaw, or those of the muscles around the eyes, allowing the whole face to feel so much softer, more at ease, more relaxed. Coming back to the breath, breathing out, release. See if we can, without rush, simply provide an opportunity for body and mind to let go of anything unneeded, unnecessary, unhelpful. So much so that as we breathe out, not only do we release the carbon dioxide, but maybe some of the tightness and discomfort in the body, some of the agitation in our mind may also flow away with the breath. And when you feel settled into the meditation, take some time to think of a suitable setting, and literally an environment, a place, a location where you're going to invite, where you allow yourself to meet once again your sources of inspiration. You can do it in a very formal, spiritual way, of a pure land, inviting the sources of inspiration in the form of Buddha figures. Or I prefer something more informal, something where we feel at ease, relaxed, able to interact with the sources of inspiration. Take a good look at the location you have selected in your mind's eye by the power of your imagination. Think of what might be here, the surrounding. Think of the ambience of the place. And locate in this imaginary place the setting of your meeting. Imagine an entrance, a place where you are allowed your sources of inspiration to appear, to come once again back into your awareness, into the space of your own mind, into the setting of yours. And think that you are allowing the doors of your own heart, your own mind, your own unconscious to be open, and to call forth and recollect the important people in your life, those who have inspired you, who has helped you, moved you in some way or others. The choices are entirely up to you, although I do suggest do not be too critical and judgmental of the people in your life. Don't demand them to be perfect, but instead think of those who has shown kindness, who embodied qualities that you admired, and in one way or another have touched you, moved you, inspire you to be a better person, a happier person, and invite them to appear from your heart, come forth from your heart, from your memories, and appear at your entrance, the entrance to your setting, and welcome them one at a time into your place, and therefore back into your awareness. There's no fixed way of doing it. Feel free to do it in any creative way. Maybe good to start with the obvious important people in your life, those that you're more likely to take for granted. Start with those and proceed to others that you may have forgotten, maybe less well known, less often do you think of them or remember them. But nonetheless, in this occasion, maybe they may come forth for yet another meeting, yet another encounter. Welcome the sources of inspiration one at a time into your setting. Feel free in your own way to interact with them, bring them to the seat, allow them to interact with one another, whichever way that comes natural and meaningful to you. But one at a time, invite them back into your awareness. And as they come forth from your heart and mind, take some time, take a good look at them, remind yourself of why they are here, what are their qualities, how about your interaction with them, in what way have they been your source of inspiration. Coming back to the breath, to here and now, coming back to the setting of your meeting with your sources of inspiration. Not to worry, don't be frustrated if you find yourself, your thoughts interfering, distracting you. Just come back again and again to this place, to this location. Reconnect with the sources of inspiration. Feel free to invite as many or as few as you like of the people who inspire you. Take time to recollect how and in what way are you inspired by them. Recollect their qualities, their deeds, their kindness, wherever these are appropriate. And as we continue reflecting, recollecting the sources of inspiration, whenever you feel that you have gathered enough of those people who have inspired you, allow yourself to mingle with them, to be in their midst. You can interact with them or not. You can stand aside as a spectator. One way or another, survey your sources of inspiration. Allow yourself to reconnect with them in your own way and awaken within yourself those feelings, those thoughts, those memories of being inspired, of being moved and touched, of being helped and benefited. And then finally, to conclude the meditation, see yourself standing in the midst of all your sources of inspiration. Remind yourself that each and every one of them has come forth from within your own heart and mind, from your own memories. In fact, what you see here, when you reconnect, has come entirely from your own mind and heart, and that each and every one of them reside within your heart and mind in this very moment. And in a sense, they have always been here with you and will always be here for you within your own heart and mind. To see if you can bring forth a sense of gratitude for having them in your life, having allowed them to touch you, to move you, to inspire you, to bring forth all these wonderful qualities, to bring possibly joy and happiness and all the wonderful benefits into your own life. With a sense of gratitude, thanking them. See if you can allow them to dissolve once again into your own heart and mind. Allow yourself to carry their inspiration with you. And we conclude by dedicating this positive momentum or this inspiring energy created through such a reflection, recollection, or meditation, dedicated towards the fulfillment of your wishes or aspirations for self and for others. So take a few moments and think about that and dedicate your merits towards your own aspirations. also think that may any positive qualities, any inspiring energy involved, awaken through this meditation, may they somehow stay with us, may they linger in our body, mind, heart, and continue to benefit us. Okay, so that is my way of meditating on sources of inspiration, a recollection of the people who have inspired me, who has awakened something, moved me and touched me, awakened something positive within myself. And so today we look at two different way of practicing recollection, recollecting different themes, different topics. And in what way are these considered investigation of reality? Because in a sense, these are our reality. These are our past experiences, our past actions, our past encounters and past interactions. And so often in being caught up in our stressful life, and so often we invoke habituated reactions. We forget about that. We forget about our sources of inspiration. We forgot about our inspiration. We forget about our own the goodness within ourselves. We forget about our past deeds, generosity. So we sort of we ended up with a very distorted view of reality at the moment, dominated by the distortion caused by our reactions to stress, to difficulties, and this the view in the midst of all this reactivity are not reality. It's a distortion of reality. It's a kind of a truncated version of reality. Probably, especially if we are overwhelmed with depression, anxiety, fear, the view we look at out, the reality, so-called reality, is not the reality itself. It's sort of been polluted and distorted, and we don't know better. We get caught up in it. We are trapped, and that's the Buddhist version of our existence, cyclic existence, including the Devas, the heavenly beings, and every one of us within this cycle is trapped. We just go round and round this loop, so to speak, the loop of reactivity, the loop of craving, of hatred, of ignorance. And to investigate reality is to balance things up, to see the different aspects from different perspectives, to open up our awareness, our viewpoint, so that we are more in touch with the complexity of reality. And one of the ways is, of course, to recollect other experiences, other encounters, which are also part of our life experiences, to rescript our so-called stories and biography. Hopefully, not in yet another distorted way, but maybe a more balanced way, balancing up the good, the bad, the neutral, and so that we can be more in touch with reality itself, and out of it, hopefully, foster positive qualities of kindness, of gratitude, of compassion, of wisdom. So that is how recollection can be an aspect of investigation of reality. All right, so we have gone down memory lane quite a bit today. I hope that is helpful, and thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you have a good week ahead, and hope to see you next week. All right, take care. Good night.